Hello and welcome to my first Standard Brawl video in a long time. I recently got a comment asking to feature the format once again, and enough of you seemed interested, so here we are. I can also see why there would be a need for more Standard Brawl content, as Historic Brawl, now simply known as Brawl, has gotten a lot bigger in recent years with the addition of remastered sets and Modern Horizons, and therefore the power level has also gone up dramatically. Now going back to 60 cards as opposed to a 100 card singleton format also means that the format's going to be much more accessible, especially for players that already play Standard, since all your Standard cards are going to be illegal in Standard Brawl. Now the one drawback, I suppose, is that this is a rotating Brawl format. As Standard rotates, so does Standard Brawl, but the format is now much bigger than it used to be when the Standard Brawl format first launched, because there's a 3-year rotation as opposed to a 2-year standard rotation, so the format is still pretty big, so there's still enough variety happening in Standard Brawl. So here we are with a 5-color room deck as my first Standard Brawl deck, and of course the rules in Standard Brawl are much the same as in Historic Brawl. The main difference, of course, is the card pool and being 60 cards as opposed to 100, but you still start out at 25 life. You can have a legendary creature or planeswalker as your commander. You can play your commander out of the command zone, and if it gets removed, you can send it back to the command zone, where you can redeploy it for 2 additional mana. And then of course your commander also determines your deck's color identity, so you can only play cards within that color identity. Now of course I'm playing a 5-color commander, so I get to play whichever colors I'd like, with Marina Vendrell, a 5-mana 3/5. When Marina enters, we reveal the top 7 cards of our library, putting all enchantment cards from among them into our hand, and then if Marina survives, she can tap to lock or more likely unlock a door of target room we control. So that can also save us a lot of mana, since there's some expensive room activations throughout, and a lot of enchantments in general, since almost every non-land card in this deck is an enchantment, so on average we're going to draw about 3 or 4 cards when Marina enters the battlefield, so that's also a nice bit of card advantage. Now I've split up the deck into a few different categories to help with the breakdown. The first one is removal, ways to survive opposing creatures until we get our 5-color monstrosity online. Then we've got additional ramp and mana fixing, especially in Standard Brawl. Mana bases aren't going to be as perfect as they can be in traditional Brawl, so having that additional mana fixing is important. And then we've got some additional card draw engines and cards that play well with enchantments. And then of course our room cards, which also include an alternate win condition with the central elevator / promising stairs. If we have 8 or more unlocked rooms at the beginning of our upkeep, we win the game. So that's often how we'll close it out, but we can also get there in other ways. So that's the rough breakdown. Now for the deep dive, starting with our removal, we've got some 1-mana auras in blue, Unable to Scream and Witness Protection, now also reprinted in Foundations, so that's going to be around for a while. These are great for enchanting opposing creature commanders especially. Then we've got Planar Disruption and Realmbreaker's Grasp, pacifism effects that also shut down activated abilities. This can also potentially target an opposing planeswalker. Then Nowhere to Run to take out smaller creatures and ignore ward effects. Trapped in the Screen can take care of enchantments, artifacts, or creatures. We've got Buried in the Garden, which can exile any non-land permanent while also ramping us by enchanting a land that makes additional mana for us. Annie Joins Up deals 5 to a creature or planeswalker when it enters, and also doubles the triggered abilities of legendary creatures we control. So if we curve Annie Joins Up into Marina, we get to triggers Marina Enter the Battlefield effect twice, so that can draw us a ton of cards. Then there's a Leyline Binding, since we're playing a 5-color mana base, enabling Domain is not too difficult. And then Virtue of Persistence can be a 2-mana removal spell, and then later the enchantment can also get creatures back out of the graveyard, so that can also be an alternate win condition. Then we've got Keys to the House to potentially fix our mana by getting a basic land if we sacrifice it, but it can also be used to lock or unlock a room we control, so that can also maybe save us some mana. The Inquisitive Glimmer gives all our enchantments a 1-mana discount, but also gives unlocking a door a 1-mana discount. Then there's Arcane Signet, which is legal in Standard Brawl alongside Command Tower, so make sure to include those in all of your decks. Case of the Shattered Pact can get a basic when it enters, also an enchantment, and then can also easily be solved if we control Marina. So then with a solved case, we can attack with a double striking Vigilant Marina with flying, and then still tap it to unlock more doors in our second main phase. Then there's another case of the locked hothouse this time. Lets us play an additional land each turn. Can be solved if we control 7 or more lands. We do have a relatively high land count in this deck just to make sure the mana works out, so it's not too difficult to enable. And then once solved, we get to play additional lands and enchantments off the top of our deck, so that can also accumulate a lot of value. Omen Path Journey can find 5 lands, and then at the beginning of our end step we get to put one of those lands into play at random, so that can also fix our colors and keep ramping us. And then Herd Migration we can discard for 1 and a green to get a basic and gain 3, but can also be a solid finisher, making 5 beast tokens if we have the full domain. And then additional card draw includes Up the Beanstalk, draws off our commander, also an enchantment, so fits quite well. Entity Tracker draws a card with Eerie, so that's when an enchantment enters or whenever we fully unlock a room, so that can also happen frequently. Calyx can also give us +1 counters whenever an enchantment enters, and if it manages to connect with an opponent, we can also copy an enchantment we control, so that can also be a lot of fun. And then Ghostly Dancers, when it enters, can either return an enchantment from our graveyard or unlock a room we control, and then with Eerie also makes 3/1 Flying Spirit tokens, so it can make an army in and of itself. Then moving on to our room cards, there's the Bottomless Pool, which is just 1 mana to bounce an opposing creature back. We're not going to unlock the Locker room very often, but that can also maybe draw some more cards if we hit the opponent. Central Elevator, on the other hand, is very important as it can tutor up whatever room we want, and then the Promising Stairs as our eventual win condition can also help us surveil 1 at the beginning of our upkeep. The Smoky Lounge is excellent for deploying additional rooms each turn, as we'll get 2 more mana to work with, and then the Misty Salon can also make a large spirit token if we already have a few rooms unlocked. Then we've got the Roaring Furnace, excellent removal early, and Steaming Sauna, additional card draw late. We've got the Meat Locker to keep an opposing creature locked down. Drowned Diner can also draw some more cards. Then Unholy Annex doesn't need an introduction if you've played Standard recently, can draw us an extra card at the cost of 2 life each turn, unless we control a demon, at which point it will drain the opponent for 2 instead, and of course Ritual Chamber can make a nice 6/6 Flying Demon token for us, so ideally we can play the Annex and then unlock the Ritual Chamber with our commander, so we don't need to pay for it, and we immediately get to drain the opponent. Then there's a Glassworks, dealing 4 to a creature. The Shattered Yard, not too impressive, but can also deal 1 at the beginning of our end step. Then a Moldering Gym is excellent for ramping into a turn 4 Marina, finding a basic when it enters, and then the Weight Room can also let us manifest Dread and end up with a 5/5, so that's another excellent use of our commander. We've got the Charred Foyer, which can exile a card at the beginning of our upkeep, and then with the Warped Space we can play exiled cards for free once each turn. And then we also have a Sweeper with a restricted office, destroying all creatures with power 3 or greater. A bit of a nombo with our commander, but we can play it beforehand. And then the Lecture Hall can also be unlocked for free potentially, so other permanents we control have hexproof, so we have that built-in protection. And then quickly going over the mana base, I'm playing 1 of each of the Surveil lands and now the completed cycle of Verge lands, with the exception of red-black, just because red and black are the least commonly played colors in this deck, so those pair quite nicely, since the Surveil lands enter tapped, but let you Surveil 1 of course, and then have both basic line types, which are great for enabling the Verge lands, which initially only make 1 color, but with the corresponding basic types can make a 2nd color as well, so the more the merrier. And these will enter untapped later. And then we also have 1 of each basic to find with our various effects like Moldering Gym and other tutor effects here, as well as being able to find them with our fetch lands. We've got Escape Tunnel, Fabled Passage is untapped later, and Terramorphic Expanse. And then of course Command Tower is a must include in pretty much any Brawl deck that's more than 1 color. And then Valgavott's Lair, also an enchantment, so it can find it with Marina's Enter the Battlefield ability, and then can also make a man of any color after initially entering tapped. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play, facing the Sadistic Pilgrim, a black-white sacrifice deck, and our hand seems pretty decent. Got all our colors pretty much, thanks to Command Tower. Bit of card draw, bit of removal. And turn 1, maybe get the green mana in play. I'll keep the Verge. Currently don't have a 2 mana play, so could have been more greedy. But we'll just get our tap lands out of the way. And then... And now I can maybe say no to the Parlor. There's a chance we can ambush an attacker with the entity tracker. That rhymes. And would want to play this before our enchantments anyway. So we'll see if they have instant speed removal. Ajani can also pump stuff up.
No matter what, there is always hope.
So I guess now we're just gonna take the hits and pressure Ajani with our tracker. Don't really want to trade. And this can damage, let's see, can also damage planeswalkers actually, so we can just deal 5 to Ajani, that maybe makes more sense. Still playing my mountain to enable domain, but of course command tower can make all colors. And then, yeah, I'll still keep attacking since I'm not really planning to trade. Burieds in the Garden can be a nice answer that ramps us while drawing cards with Entity Tracker. And we could also just jam Marina next turn, which would trigger twice off any joins up. Can always make a Demon token, but maybe we can just unlock it for free, so we don't have to pay 5 mana. Sheltered by Ghosts is pretty good. Goes for any joins up, maybe. So let's see, Buried in the Garden. When it enters, exile target non-land permanent, so we should be able to target their commander, and then, thanks to the extra mana, immediately pay the ward. Always good to enchant a basic in case of a Field of Ruin-like ability. Alright, that works. Get any joins up back, and the opponent's House of Cards comes crumbling down. Now we're super far ahead. I guess still behind on life total, but that's kind of the only metric where we're losing. Enduring Innocence, we would prefer to exile if possible. So yeah, Planar Disruption, not quite the solution we would like. So it might be time for Marina, and then we'll still have some leftover mana to put to use. Okay, that's a lot of cards. So is there anything that can exile the Enduring Innocence? I guess those usually start at 3 mana. So next turn I can exile it. This one has a ward, pay 2 life, can say no to the ward with nowhere to run. So that could be our play for now. Sure. I was about to say play its main phase so we don't have to discard to hand size as much, but Entity Tracker gives us a replacement card. And I guess we could attack for 2, or we can hang back. Alright, discard 6 cards. So probably don't need Up the Beanstalk anymore. The tap land can go. Maybe just keep one of the untapped lands. And then keys to the house don't seem necessary. I'll ditch one of the 1 mana auras in blue. And then Case basically just gets a land. Even though this fun with Marina would take us another turn to actually solve the case, so we can attack with Double Strike and Vigilance. So if they answer Marina, it seems a little slow. Opponent replays their commander, draws a card. And then the plan is use Trapped in the Screen on the Enduring Innocence if possible. And then Marina can maybe unlock the Ritual Chamber for us. Could have kept an extra land in hand for a case of the Locked Hothouse, but it's already going to be solved here once we play land number 7. So this is definitely happening. Okay, and then yeah, going for Annex Unlock makes the best use of Marina. And I suppose we could also Unable to Scream the Pilgrim here. And draw off Tracker. And draw off Tracker again. And again. And go for a tap land. And sure, we'll keep the Smoky Lounge. Could start attacking for 2, not sure what's going to be faster here. Winning with damage or potentially finding our alternate win condition. If they can answer my demon, I'll maybe lose a bit of life here. For now, Omen Path Journey doesn't seem needed, Escape Tunnel can go. And then being able to play the case and immediately play an extra line for a turn also feels a bit better. And then especially with the solved case, we should be able to find all our room cards in no time. Opponent's hanging in there with Beza. A decent catch-up mechanism. And get lost Marina. That's fine, I don't think we'll really need it anymore. Could leave it in the graveyard to get back with Virtue of Persistence. Sure. Although if we cast it, we get that immediate value of Annie joins up. But I'm kind of worried about running out of cards now. And I don't think this is a May ability, we have to put all those enchantments in hand, so... Okay, I'll start maybe by fetching. Still have a decent amount of basics left. Play the case. Alright, Glimmer now first. Trying to keep an eye on our colors so we can still cast our spells here. So we can play this cost 2 since it's not an actual enchantment. But Smoky Lounge looks good. And then Virtue deals with Tiny Bones. Hit you with a demon. Case is solved. End of turn, drain you for 2. And a Herd Migration could also close out the game for us. Chaos Command. Giving a creature double strike. Going for Pilgrim, so it's still going to be useful here. And Skrelv. Okay. At least we've got varied colors among our creatures. So this would be hitting me for 6 damage total. Yeah, that's still manageable. Get some mana to cast our rooms. Play lands off the top. Could keep another one, maybe we'll find an untapped land instead. Restricted Office deals with my own demon and Beza, so not all that useful. Could also shuffle with Expanse. Or we could explore with a map. But keeping the card in our library could still be useful. Alright, so now there's a land on top. Can Bottomless Pool to bounce either a token or maybe Skrelv. Which also triggers Entity Tracker. Okay, another land on top. Still looking at Herd Migration. Could also make another Flying Spirit here. Glassworks could answer Pilgrim. Then our opponent gets to replay it, that's probably fine. Or we could just deal with the fish tokens. So we get a clean attack on the ground. And now Calyx is a nice one too. Triggers twice thanks to Annie joins up. Furnace for 1 mana answers a creature. I guess that one can go after Beza. So we can also reanimate it with Virtue Persistence. Calyx triggers once again. So yeah, now with Calyx we're definitely going off and we should be able to just win right now. If we're careful enough not to draw too many cards. 13 remain. Alright, and that's a lethal attack right now. Sweet. So yeah, Annie joins up, also quite nice with Calyx. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing the Gitrog Ravenous Ride. What do we think of our opener? Got most of our colors here, so yeah, seems fine. We'll have to wait on the red mana until we find a plains or mountain. Case can fix our colors even more. Don't really have any ramp, but we do have a bit of interaction at least, and plenty more card draw. So for now, I want to get maybe a mountain. So we'll also have double red for the warped space. Next turn we could Beanstalk, play a Survey land. And then turn 4, we've got a couple more options. Yeah, that looks good. Do I want a Locked Hothouse? We're a bit light on lands in hand, so it may not be at its best here. Alright. In hindsight, might have worked out, but again, we're not really lacking card advantage spells, so we'd rather look for more interaction. Opponent with a Spelunking, so they can cast their commander next turn. And we could ramp with a Moldering Gym. That looks okay. And we can look for a second. Already have double blue. May want double black. Or maybe double green. And then we can play Archive, which also enables our red Verge land. I'll keep a Trapped in the Screen. And then next turn we could play our commander, which also solves case of the Shattered Pact. And then Trapped in the Screen could also be an answer to the Gitrog. So we could also wait a turn on Marina. Yeah, I don't hate that, just kind of take our time. And I can still play the Promising Stairs. So then we basically have our win condition in play already. Although black-green could have some enchantment removal. And then as soon as we play our commander, we're gonna get a ton of card advantage from it. Alright, Honest Rutstein can discount their creature spells. And yeah, we saw Glissa as well, so that can destroy enchantments if it connects, so we'll want to use Nowhere to Run if possible. So keeping the Glimmer on top makes sense. So we probably want to deal with Glissa before playing Marina, since it's not going to draw us into a black source unless we get it off up the Beanstalk. So in that case, can go with Glimmer, Nowhere to Run, and then could still play the Foyer, or maybe unlock the elevator as well. But I'll do this now. And then what do we want to search up? Maybe the Restricted Office as another answer to the Gitrog if it comes down. And this we can sacrifice end of turn, perhaps. We already have double white, double green, triple blue, so might want to get another swamp. So our opponent can redeploy the Gitrog and saddle it. They're gonna Edict our Glimmer first, And Gwenna is next. Alright, Seething Tower. So currently, Restricted Office deals with 2 of the opponent's creatures. Could wait to get the Gitrog as well. For now, Virtue Persistence is decent. Could maybe answer Gwenna, which wouldn't die to the Restricted Office. If Marina gets answered by her own Restricted Office, it's not a disaster. So I'm kind of down to just play Marina and then Virtue Gwenna. Alright. Hit a couple more removal spells. Can maybe wait on a Roaring Furnace. Case is now solved. Kind of expect him to remove Marina anyways. And back to the command zone. And a Hydra. Okay. I guess we'll just wait for that to get a little bit larger. I would like to hit a land for turn. Could Furnace the Hydra so we don't take 1,000,000 damage from it. Because yeah, we do have to be careful at 11. So I might have to just wipe the board anyway. And then we'll deal with the Gitrog when it shows up once again. So we'll use the Furnace. And then Grasp is a fine answer to the Gitrog. Although of course will hit us thanks to haste. So could keep another land on top, I suppose. At least now they cannot sacrifice anything to the Gitrog's ability. So we'll take 6. And still keep planes on top. We're getting close to just winning with this as well. So we need to unlock just a couple more rooms. But then it does trigger in our upkeep, so we do need to survive a little bit longer. But I suppose we could just get the Smoky Lounge going as well. Enchant the Gitrog. And then go Smoky Lounge into make a token. So we've got a blocker just in case. And our opponent scoops it up. Probably needed one more turn to win with our Promising Stairs, but we were in great shape. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Glarb, a Sultai deck. Our hand seems promising. Got plenty of card advantage with Beanstalk and Tracker. And we'll have to decide on Escape Tunnel soon, but for now Command Tower's nice to keep. So if I get a Plains, we enable both of the Verge lands to make their respective color. So that makes some amount of sense. And then if I play Beanstalk with Tracker in play, we also get to draw an extra card. Flash Gorger 3/3. That's okay. Alright, so this seems like a decent turn to just play a Tracker end of turn. And then we also want to set up our Annie Joins Up. Take 3. Flash Gorger of course makes a lot of sense in a Glarb deck, since it's also an expensive card that they can cast off the top. So now Annie Joins Up. A great answer to Glarb as well, while drawing off Tracker. Can deal with a Flash Gorger later. And then we could play Marina and trigger it twice, but maybe that's overkill since we already have a lot of cards in hand. Cut down a pretty efficient answer to the tracker. Alright, Omen Path Journeys may be more what I'm looking for, as it can further progress my mana. If we go for Ghostly Dancers, it doesn't get back the tracker, only enchantment cards. So, could also go for the Demon Token, but that's not going to stop the Flesh Gorger. So I think it's between Omen Path Journey or just Slam Down Marina. I'll go with the Journey for now, and that'll open up more possibilities for next turn. Get mostly just tapped lands. Don't think the colors matter too much. And I'll fetch before we surveil. And a Witness Protection could be a fine 1 mana removal spell. Opponent's gonna pillage, looking for threats or answers. And the Inner Sun, we'll let them discover. Hitting a Harvester, which is pretty good here. 5/4 Menace. Okay, so we've got a few problems to deal with, but Marina is gonna find lots of answers, probably. Could go Beanstalk first, but it's not like we need more card advantage. So I think I'm okay with playing our commander now. Did find Unable to Scream. Leyline Binding still costs 2 mana. So in that case, maybe hold this until after we play Beanstalk. And for now, between Protection and Unable to Scream, I guess we'll Unable to Scream your Harvester of Misery. And then Leyline Binding, also a good answer to the Inner Sun. Keep untapped land on top. And then I guess now we can still Binding for 1, now that we got the full domain of Omen Path Journey, so that worked out. And then discard 2 cards, don't need the case, although it is a good way to get in damage with Marina, in case we need that as a win condition, but it's probably not a priority. And then, yeah, we've got multiple removal spells, can also discard an enchantment and then still get it back with the Dancers. Possible up the Beanstalk is overkill. Yeah, you know what? We've got plenty of ways to spend our mana. For now, take 3. And there's Glarb once again. Glassworks. Pretty decent solution. So let me start there. Going for Witness Protection was also reasonable. Opponent let Glarb go to the graveyard. For now, we can deal with Flesh Gorger through a Realmbreaker's Grasp, for instance. And then still go Annex, make a Demon. And that's good enough for now. Keep the Furnace. Back up to 12. And then Ghostly Dancers can also make some Spirit tokens for us. Opponent had the cover up to wipe the board. Back to the command zone. And now we're maybe interested in the Ghostly Dancers. If we play Furnace, I can still unlock it and then get the Sauna going. Feels like a ways to use the Restricted Office without actually wiping the board, but it would be a way to give our stuff hexproof. I'll go with Furnace. Into Dancers. Unlock a door. Make a token. And pass a turn with nowhere to run available. Keep a land. And draw Migration. So now we are on a clock from our own Unholy Annex. But if we replay Marina, we're probably gonna find our stairs pretty soon, which can just win us the game. Although maybe we do need to give our stuff hexproof to be safe, in case they have a disenchant. Although they probably would have used it by now to free their inner sun. Shield Roots makes me sacrifice a non-token. Gonna hang on to the Migration, drew into our elevator / promising stairs. Okay. So could attack, cast the Office, just to deal with Shield Roots. Although Witness Protection can also shut it down, since it would lose all its abilities. A little risky if they have a disenchant or some flicker effect, but seems unlikely. Replaying our commander, always an option. Yeah, what's more likely, a discard effect taking stairs, elevator, or a disenchant? Maybe at this point I just get this going. And then maybe go for Smoky Lounge, which will give us more mana on the following turn. And then we'll just wipe the board. Could also make a large Spirit. And then next turn just win the game. Sure. And for now, Witness Protection, Shield Roots. And then we should be able to win in 2 turns, basically, by unlocking the Promising Stairs. Hidetsugu and Kairi. So they've got some expensive instants and sorceries they're hoping to hit. Maybe Breach the Multiverse. I have 23 cards left, so if they go Breach into a Jace, they could maybe mill me out. Okay, make some mana. Unlock. Keeping Hidetsugu tapped down seems like a fine solution. Could also just cast the Lecture Hall to give our stuff protection. Just in case. So now they would need a very specific answer to get out of this. So there's no real reason to attack for 11, but would have been fine. Okay, so we're about to win in our upkeep with the Promising Stairs. Analyze the pollen, can get whatever creature they want. Is there a creature that destroys all enchantments when it enters the battlefield? I don't think so. Overlord can get something back out of the graveyard. Aha, Jace, so they were actually close to milling me to death. Because yeah, they can Jace, mill me for 15, get it back with Overlord. And then I guess they can still mill me for another... How much is it? Because they can cast it for the Phyrexian mana. Yeah, opponent was actually very close, but I suppose even if they do mill me completely, I would still win in my upkeep thanks to the Promising Stairs. So the fact that they remove my library doesn't actually matter, since we win before taking our draw step. But yeah, Jace plus Overlord, mill for 15, get it back for 2 mana, recast it with a Phyrexian mana, still enters with 3 loyalty, so they could mill me for another 9. So that would definitely mill me out here. So yeah, good thing we had our win condition in play. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Gonti, so a mono-black deck trying to steal our cards. Our hand can get blue with Expanse, so then we can play Glimmer, Tracker, Protection, And then wait on red for any joins up. Yeah, this seems reasonable enough. A little slow to get going. Opponent's gonna have some cheap creatures to enable Gonti. For now, Tiny Bones joins up. Could ditch any joins up, could also ditch the Glimmer, since it's likely to get removed. And I'm not going to be able to play it turn 2 most likely. Alright, now Thundering Falls looks better. And I'll keep a Moldering Gym. Bandit's Talent makes me discard. I'll get rid of the protection. And then for now, do we still want to surveil or do we want to fetch? Do want to get the green online, so I think Portico makes sense. And do we want Lair? Yeah, it's another tapped land, so it's not ideal. Maybe I can get rid of it. Because yeah, finding an untapped land would maybe let us play Marina on turn 4. Although playing any joins up first could also work out. And now an Overlord. So no creatures to set up Gonti, but more of a discard approach. That works for me. So Jim, which color do we get? Probably just another green source here. Now Gix. Just gonna run into our any joins up. Would have drawn the mountain, which could have let us play Marina, and drew a nowhere to run now instead. So can't quite go tracker into nowhere to run, but this seems like a decent answer. Or we can still any joins up, even though this is maybe a cleaner solution to Gonti. Yeah, keeping it for Gonti makes sense, although playing this now sets up Marina to trigger twice next turn, and then we maybe don't care about Gonti. And this wants to get either mountain or island. Maybe island, given that we already have tracker in hand. And we might draw some more cheap removal spells that are single blue. So there's Gonti. Triggers Tiny Bones. I should probably fetch now, since they already milled our mountain before they mill my island as well. Alright, drew our Promising Stairs. And then, yeah, Marina is pretty good value here. Could also wait a turn, use Herd Migration, just to hit our land drop for a turn. Since we're gonna miss it this turn, since we got rid of the Lair, which is the only enchantment land. But, still kinda like playing Marina here. Triggering twice. First only hitting 1 enchantment and then hitting 4 more. So Calyx is unlikely to really get going. So I could ditch that one. And then do we need Foyer? May not be all that necessary, since we seem to have enough card advantage as is. Gonti attacks, I'll block. Would be nice if Marina survives, but it's not a disaster if it gets answered. But yeah, Tiny Bones joins up, is doing work, milling the lands we would have drawn. And now Burglar Rat makes us discard once again. Maybe Nowhere to Run can go, even though it's a fine answer to a Tiny Bones. Buried in the Garden, probably the best answer we have for Gonti. Could also answer the Talent. Yeah, maybe actually the Meat Locker can go. Can get more card advantage with the Elevator. And now Restricted Office, probably not the best answer we want to play right now. So then we're looking at Buried in the Garden. Can still use Herd Migration. And then Manifest Dread. So yeah, sequencing here doesn't really matter since I don't have any 1-drop left. But technically it would make sense to Buried in the Garden first. And then I could still know where to run Tiny Bones, or I can hit my land drop with Migration. And then if Tiny Bones hits me, it's not a disaster. Although I suppose I could keep my commander locked down. Yeah, maybe I will actually keep up Nowhere to Run. And here doesn't matter. And then at least we still progressed our mana with Buried in the Garden. And the rest probably means we need to take out Tiny Bones now, and our opponent scoops it up. Well, they actually could have taken our stairs, but we still had plenty of other ways to close out the game here with a Hurt Migration. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Alesha, black-red arrayed with a bit of a graveyard theme. So, not going to be an easy matchup, but this hand's got potential. Our mana looks okay. I guess we don't have blue from the River Power Verge, but we'll have blue from Flood Farm. And then a Grasp seems fine. Don't really want to use Grasp as an answer to Alesha, because I can still enable the raid ability by attacking with a different creature. Draw with Beanstalk. And next turn, I guess there's not a whole lot happening. Hazarets. I guess an indestructible creature is a fine target for Grasp. And a Moldering Gym helps us ramp if we don't want to cast any of our 4-drops. And then we're interested in maybe getting a Mountain, so we have double red for Warped Space, as well as turning on the River Power Verge. Deep Cavern Bats probably wants to take Annie Joins Up, makes sense, since that answers the bat, but then they still need to deal with the board wipe. Takes Annie Joins Up. So, play Moldering Gym, get Mountain. And then next turn, Marina is also an option. Yeah, so Hazoret also cannot activate its abilities, so it's shut down completely. Our opponent knows about our board wipes, so that's going to make it awkward for them to play more stuff out. But they do play Far Fortune, getting their speed up to 2 right away. Okay, so it could be a decent window for our commander, even though it's likely to get removed the next turn. Yeah, I think that's still reasonable. Draws off Beanstalk. Can still play Keys to the House. How close are we to a 1-mana binding? I guess we're missing Islands, which I'm not going to get this turn. But yeah, we've got plenty of creature removal in hand now. So even if they take out Marina and get an attack in, we should be able to stabilize next turn. So this is basically a free attack for my opponents. Of course, they could have a burn spell to finish off Marina. I don't think I want to take damage for no reason, however. So we'll make them use it if they have anything. It's going to be a snail to make us exile a card. What don't we need? Maybe a Nowhere to Run can go, since we have Virtue, which also gains some life, and then I might need the Foyer as another source of card advantage. Alright, our opponent scoops it up. Seeing our hand, they know what they're facing next turn, as we can just decimate their board, use Marina to unlock all our rooms for free here, and quickly take over. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Liliana of the Veil, so mono black, discard. So having a nice form of card advantage is important. Do we have a way of damaging Liliana here? Doesn't look like it. So eventually finding an answer to Liliana could be important, otherwise the ultimate could be quite devastating. But this hand seems keepable. The ramp from Signet is helpful, and the card draw from Beanstalk. Our colors seem reasonable, although we do need to turn the black half of the Verge online still. Case of the Locked Hothouse, also a pretty good way to beat a discard deck by just playing off the top. With Signet, of course, we're not too worried about our mana fixing, assuming they don't take it away on turn 1. Ghost Vacuum shuts down our graveyard. Could be relevant later, but for now it's not a huge concern. And then I'll prioritize Signet just to have our green mana for Case of the Locked Hothouse. And then we can immediately play it and play an extra land if we'd like. Still tempted to play Beanstalk before we play our commander to get that extra card. Staff of Completion can also help them proliferate onto their Planeswalker. Alright, so might be time for Beanstalk. Hope to draw into a land or something we can cast. I guess we can always go for Promising Stairs, if nothing else. And we do want to hit more land drops to eventually solve the case. Now Smoky Lounge makes more sense, since that can make mana for us to potentially double spell next turn. Opponent will pay 4 life to draw. And they're maybe still waiting for Liliana so they can -2. Cruelty is not going to find any creatures or planeswalkers in our hand. But next turn they can tutor whatever they'd like. Alright, so found our forest, which turns on the Verge. So I can play Marina, and then still have 3 mana to cast room spells or unlock doors. Which, yeah, looks good since we have the Promising Stairs in hand. Get to play an extra land thanks to the case. And our dancers seem fine. Okay, so that was a nice turn. So if they Liliana deal with Marina, it's not the end of the world, we got our value. I guess the dancers maybe not at its best with Ghost Vacuum, exiling stuff from graveyard. But we can still unlock a room with it. The Lecture Hall giving our stuff hexproof also doesn't really help when facing the -2 from Liliana. But we'll see.
One of your friends has to leave.
Intimidation Tactics is gonna fail since we're holding all enchantments. Yeah, I'll still keep the dancers. Make some mana for rooms. And what are we thinking? Could unlock the elevator, which can get another room. We could maybe go for the foyer or a warped space. So what's our end goal? Of course, win with the Promising Stairs, but that's still gonna take a few turns. I guess for now maybe the goal is get the case online, which requires an extra land. So then triggering up the Beanstalk might be the best way to do that. Yeah, I'll play the dancers. Found a land. Unlock the elevator. Make a token. And get another interesting choice. This only bounces creatures. This doesn't damage planeswalkers. Also doesn't damage planeswalkers. Maybe still go for the Annex since it's an extra source of card advantage. Although for now maybe we want the Demon. Yeah, I guess never mind, we have our land entering tapped. So a little short of the Demon. So in that case maybe the foyer. And I'll keep another land on top. Alright, still made use of all our mana here. Got to unlock the case. The case and the foyer can provide additional card advantage. We've got Annex, which can also provide extra card advantage. And then we're also just getting close to winning with our Promising Stairs. So our opponent scoops it up. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Goddric, so mono-red aggro. Our hand seems pretty decent for the matchup, with lots of removal. Now, sequencing our colors is pretty tricky, since we do want to get Virtue going, but this doesn't make black unless we get an island. So I guess we could get an island for starters. And then double blue is probably more useful than double black. Although, it's not necessarily true. But yeah, it's probably going to be a while before we actually get to 7 mana for the enchantment half. Alright, and if our opponent doesn't make us play the Virtue yet, probably want to get white mana going. And a Moldering Gem. I guess we are missing green now is the problem. But yeah, I guess we'll have to get rid of it then. Or we can keep it and then hope to find green mana with the extra Surveil. Opponent's still not doing anything. It's a little surprising, but I guess we'll Surveil now. I'll look for green mana. I'll keep it tap-lined. So if Goddric shows up, Virtue is a pretty clean answer. Although we could also use a more expensive answer just to keep the cheaper Virtue for later. And use a Trapped in the Screen, for instance. Still have the Restricted Office to deal with larger creatures. So this seems reasonable. And then we could still cast Marina on curve. I'll keep the District, just good to hit our land drops, since Marina's gonna find the enchantments for us. A Red Cap, a Gutter Dweller. Could be a fine target for Virtue. And then I can still Moldering Gem. And then wait an extra turn on our commander. I'll get another, let's see, we have another green in hand. Second black now maybe for Virtue. Could also play the Lecture Hall first, just to give our commander hexproof. Opponent redeploys Goddric. Take 5. And this turn could go for commander, leaving blue mana available. We've got white in hand, and those are most of the cheap removal spells we could draw. Okay. Found an Unable to Scream. So I can play that one, or a Planar Disruption, which requires the untapped land. Yeah, I guess we'll go with Unable to Scream. And a Bottomless Pool seems fine. So we already have our win condition in hand, the Promising Stairs. Just gonna take a second to get 8 unlocked rooms on the battlefield. But we've got plenty of removal in hand. Equipment could be more problematic, especially ones that give flying. But we can bounce the token, and then I'll have to spend mana re-equipping. And then speaking of mana, I could get the Smoky Lounge, or we could get Omen Path Journey going as well. Those are all options. And I guess I probably tapped poorly if I wanted to cast a Smoky Lounge right now. Could also go with the Annex/Ritual Chamber to gain life back if we can keep the demon alive. Yeah, I don't hate that idea either. Although if they can deal with the demon, this might backfire. So play the Annex. And then we can immediately unlock the demon half. Alright, so we're gaining 2. So we currently have 5 unlocked rooms. Dracosaurs, not a huge concern right now. Alright, so we've got a lot of amazing options. But trying to win the game is probably the way to go. This deals 4 damage. And yeah, bonus scoops it up already. But yeah, taking a look at the battlefields, we could go with, let's say, Witness Protection, your Dracosaur to shut it down for 1 mana. And then we have 6, 7, 8 mana left. So then we could play Glassworks, unlock the Wait Room with Marina, unlock the Promising Stairs ourselves, and then we should have 8 unlocked rooms here if my math is correct. So then we should be able to just win in our following upkeep, and no way Mono Red can deal with our enchantments. At 19 life, with no real creatures that can attack, and we should be able to win next turn. Alright, so we got to see this 5-color rooms deck in action. And most of the time we end up winning with Promising Stairs, but the deck still has other win conditions throughout, get to draw a lot of cards, so we often get to see most of our deck. So as far as these 5-color commanders go, Marina seems pretty well positioned for Standard Brawl, should also translate relatively well into Historic Brawl, of course, but that format is going to be a little less forgiving, so you don't always have enough time to set up all your room cards, so actually playing it in a slightly slower Brawl format makes a lot of sense. So be sure to let me know in the comments if you would like to see more Standard Brawl videos in the future, and especially if the video performs well, I'll be more than happy to oblige. But for now, I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.